Hey, welcome out. It's good to see everybody here tonight. In the fifth in the series of the Listening Room. And we started, I guess, back in September with Rob Bowman was here. And we did Stax Records because he had been a part of the Emmy-nominated series that they did on Stax Records. And Paul Hoffert was here. And then we had Elaine Overholt. We had a great one downstairs, Alan Cross, and now this is one of my favorite people in the world, one of my favorite musicians, Pat Labarbera's here. So, I wrote some words about Pat here. I'm going to read, and I ran it by him first, just to make sure I got it wrong. Pat Labarbera stands as a towering figure in the world of jazz saxophone, a musician whose dedication to the craft and deep connection to the bebop tradition have left an indelible mark on both the Canadian and international jazz scenes. Born in Mount Morris, New York, Labarbera's early exposure to music came from his father, a passionate drummer who instilled a love for swing improvisation in his children. It wasn't long before Pat found himself drawn to the saxophone, inspired by the soaring lines of John Coltrane and the rhythmic complexity of Charlie Parker. His technical brilliance and emotional depth earned him a spot in the famed Buddy Rich Band during the early 70s, where his commanding tenor solos became a defining feature of the ensemble sound. Whether navigating blistering up-tempo runs or delivering a ballad with aching lyricism, Labarbera always approached the music with reverence and boundless energy. After years on the road with the richest hard-driving band, Labarbera settled in Toronto in the late 1970s, becoming the cornerstone of the city's vibrant jazz community. His presence brought a new level of sophistication to the local scene, and he quickly became a sought-after educator, mentor, and collaborator. With an approach that blends the technical rigor of his New York upbringing with the open-hearted lyricism of his music idols. Labarbera has influenced a generation of Canadian musicians, teaching at Harvard College and performing alongside legends Elvin Jones and Woody Shaw. Whether on the stage or at an intimate club or in front of a festival crowd, his playing carries the weight of jazz history while remaining fiercely individual. Fluid, passionate, and always searching for new and expressive possibilities, Pat Labarbera. Welcome back. Feels like Actors Theater.
Wow.
Is that it? It feels like that old show, Actors Theater.
I'd like to get to know him.
No, I could do the Brian Linehan, right? It's 1937, Pat.
Yeah, I don't know if you read Bill's posts on Facebook, but he is a great writer, and every week he has some great insights into politics, music, and what have you. So if you get a chance, follow him on Facebook.
Yeah, I have a Substack thing called The Sound and the Reason, and so it's been good just to write.
You know, the minor scale, I mean, for me to play in minor is kind of one of my favorite things to do because of that. No, it's an old. Then you get. So that's all. The minor, playing those things. Even to I played like I used to play this one with Tony Bennett. know that song?
Yeah.
Forget to well, Stan Getz, because perfect first personality. So the minor thing was really easy for me to play because of those mazurkas and polkas, you know, and you play it in a lot of the ethnic musics use those scales, right? Those double scales. Yeah. Double harmonic minor scales. That comes from, for me, is very easy because of that early playing with my father's band. That was a thing called travagliazione, which is translated somewhat around work and sleep or something like that. But all those old things I played with my father, they adapted over to the jazz tradition. It's all stolen from classical repertoire. All the songs, they just stole it. I mean, take my hand, there's some strange, you know, that's like Borodin, right? Polovetzian's Dance or something like that. All these old standard tunes. What's the other one? Anyway, there's so many of them that borrow from that.
Lover's Concerto.
Yeah, plagiarize. Let no one else's work evade your eyes. Remember why the good Lord made your eyes, so don't shade your eyes, but plagiarize, but always remember to call it research. Now, that's not me, but that's from learning lyrics from Tom Lehrer. I mean, you know Tom Lehrer.
Yeah.
Tom Lehrer. That I, Mr. the pester, young sister named Esther, this Mr. to pester she tried. And while pestering sisters, a festering blister, your best head resistor say I. The sister persisted and missed the resistance. She kissed while that loyalty slipped. When she said I could have her sister's cadaver must surely have turned in its crypt. So I learned these from when I was a kid. The lyrics just stuck with me from learning poems. So when I went to work with singers, it was pretty easy to do. Sorry, you got that phone talking to me. So anyway, it's just about my brain. So I wasn't great at stuff in school, but for some reason, lyrics, poems, those things stayed with me. Everybody's got a certain talent for something, and that was probably my talent.
So, how do you keep yourself so healthy and to be able to play this thing? This is amazing because this doesn't happen.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've always researched.
I remember you used to eat a lot of trail mix.
My brother Joe used to say, Pat is beyond rice. Anyway, no, I mean, I was staying with Annie Ross, the singer Annie Ross.
Yeah.
Okay, my wife and I were staying with Annie in Annie Ross's apartment, and I used to visit London and Ronnie Scott's, and we stayed with Annie one time. And we were talking to Annie, and she had just read this book by Dick Gregory, who was a comedian. Yeah. And he wrote a book called Cooking with Mother Nature. And Dick Gregory was a huge, obese man at the time. And then he got into fasting. And he started doing 40-day fasts and doing all that. So I started researching that, and I got into a guy named Paul Bragg. Nobody knows who Paul Bragg is. He was a life extension specialist. His whole theory was you should be able to live to 120, like the Bible says, I guess, and at 120 be able to function like you're 20. So I started researching that, and I started getting into fasting. I did that when I was on Buddy Rich's band. I started carrying my own food with me. Paul Bragg believed you should fast every night, every week from dinner, maybe Sunday to dinner Monday, and then every time the seasons changed, you fasted for 7 days. Well, I took it a little bit further. Was trying to do a 40-day fast, never got there. So I did that kind of stuff when I was younger. And eating, I was a vegetarian for a long time, that stuff. Exercised, running, yoga, karate for years. Trail mix. Anyway, what I found was, even though I have health problems now, that the time I spent in my 30s doing all of this sporadically was kind of like banking, like putting money in the bank for these years.
Absolutely.
So if I drop that tomorrow, don't you? I worked with Terry Clark the other day, and we were trying to figure out some I don't know if this stuff's all being taped. I'm giving up all this information. But Terry he said, what do you mean we got to work? We had a gig in June and now it's being changed to August? He goes, well, now I can't die in August because I'm booked.
What about music therapy? Like just the music?
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. I do all kinds of wacky stuff, right? So I do buteyko breathing, you know what that is? The retaining of the carbon dioxide and the exchange of nitric oxide in the breath. I do that stuff. It's like really important to me. I do it. I studied, I took lessons with it, and I was doing it this morning. I do Wim Hof breathing and Wim Hof.
I do it every morning too.
Ice cold showers.
I can't do that.
Well, you do hot, and then as it's hot, you turn it to ice cold and stay there for a minute. You don't do that?
I
I do that every day.
I'm in the light. Like now I'm using sound.
Oh, okay.
And Maria's got the vibrating chair.
Oh, the vibrations.
And light. I'm using red light, near infrared
Now,
light.
have you done the polar bear plunge?
Yeah, well, I haven't done the ice bath yet. I'm working on it.
You should put that on your thing.
Oh, yeah, right. Well, anyway, yeah, that's what I do, Bill. I have a list of all the wacky stuff I've been into.
It's all great stuff. So I did this with Tony Bennett in 1990-92 when I interviewed him, and I just finished up with the interview by just calling out some people, and you give me some impressions of them. Okay?
Okay.
There's something in your life, just Dexter Gordon.
Quickly, okay. Dexter Gordon. Well, I've seen Dexter many times, but I did meet him on the street in front of his apartment one time and told him how much his influence was on me. He recorded Our Man in Paris, and he did a take on Scrabble from the Apple that was really influential in my early career.
Frank Rosalino.
I worked with Frank Rosalino many times. I taught at Banff with Frank, and he was always, I've known him for a long time, but he would, I remember one time I was working in a lighthouse with Elvin, and Frank got off the plane, sent his wife home with a suitcase, and he came right from the plane with his trombone to the lighthouse. And he was going to play, and he opened up his case, and he had left his mouthpiece in the suitcase. But yeah, we taught for some time at Banff.
I'm trying to figure out why this guy is here. Jimmy Dodd, Mickey Mouse Club.
Well, that was the story of Jimmy. Well, Jimmy Dodd was a mouse kid, the big adult mouseketeer. He came to Rochester with the auditions for the Mickey Mouse Club, where Steve Gadd won.
Oh, okay. Jimmy Witherspoon.
Jimmy Witherspoon, I worked for a week down at Bourbon Street, and I learned how to play. Well, one of my favorite ones is "G Baby and I Go to You." I learned that from him. Yeah. Bought you a fur coat for Christmas, diamond ring. I always call that a Christmas song.
Herbie Hancock.
Worked with Herbie a couple of times. The hall. I can't even think of it now. Massey Hall, yeah.
Massey Hall, yeah.
With him, Massey Hall, and another place too. I can't remember where it was, but we did an orchestra thing at Massey Hall with Herbie.
Okay, Dizzy Gillespie.
Worked with Dizzy many times. With Chuck Mangione, we did an album called The Tarantella, which was for relief of the earthquake in Italy at the time, and then worked Dizzy with Buddy Rich's band, did a recording with him live at Monterey Jazz Festival.
This is
And
great.
he was always fun to hang out with.
Gene Krupa, did you ever do any weed?
Played with Gene Krupa a couple of times. He was a friend of Buddy's, a really close friend, and he would come into clubs. He came in the first time I played with him was Mr. Kelly's in Chicago. He would come in. Buddy would let all the drummers sit in with the bands, and Gene sat in with us there. And then we went to New Jersey, where he was from. He lived in the town we were playing, and he came out, and Buddy pulled four of us out on the stage to a small group, and we played with him too.
Joe Williams.
Played with Joe Williams a bunch of different times. Pittsburgh with Buddy's band backing him. Can't remember where the other venue was. I think we did a week in Pittsburgh.
Oscar Peterson.
I played with Oscar Peterson here in town. I did something for Rick Wilkins. It was a TV show. And that was funny because on that same morning, I was doing Manta Sound, remember Manta Sound?
Yeah.
And I think it was for Rick Wilkins and that Oscar Peterson thing. I walked out on one of the breaks, and Don Elias, the famous, Don was a conga player, jazz drummer. I saw him in the hallway, and Don's from New York. I said, what are you doing in Toronto? He says, I'm here with Judy, and we're doing a recording. So he was dating Judy Collins at the time. No, sorry, there's it'll come to the wrong. Judy Collins I did play with, but Joni Mitchell. Sorry, he says, I'm here with Joni.
Oh, that's right.
So he said, look, why don't you come in and play on one of Joni's tracks? We're just overdubbing stuff. And so I said, well, I'm doing this thing here, let me finish this up and I'll come by on the break. So I went by, Joni showed me, because she doesn't read music, she just showed me the stuff she had to play on guitar. She said, this is the chords. Like, she didn't know what they were, and I just played them. And then she went in the booth and they played the track for me, and I overdubbed something which I never heard, and I didn't even know if they ever used it.
That's fantastic. Now the next guy I bought, when I was a kid, I bought an album of his, and it was so fast, I went in and asked my dad, can I have an aspirin? Johnny Griffin.
Oh, Johnny Griffin I met a couple of times. And
I never heard anything like that in my life.
Yeah, he could play, and he had a tonguing technique that was really fast. I met him a couple of times, and we hung out backstage in Europe at the Den Haag and those festivals there.
Michael Brecker?
Oh, Mike and I were friends for years. I first met him when he moved to New York. I was practicing at a studio. Jake Coven had a studio, trumpet player. You paid $1 an hour to practice on 42nd Street or 46th Street. Anyway, I was practicing playing, and I was on Buddy Rich's band. I felt a knock on the door and opened the door, and it's Mike. And I knew Randy, his brother, really well. I mean, I had met him, Randy was closer to him, and Mike introduced himself. He had just moved to New York from Indiana, I believe, right? And he was at school, and then he'd come to New York.
In the university, yeah.
He introduced me, he said, yeah, I was listening to what you were playing, and we talked for a minute. And then from then on, I had him come to Humber College, and we used to
that's right.
email back and forth, and
Come back.
he would email me, who do you think had the best technique, John Coltrane or Stan Getz? And then we'd have this conversation. And he was really methodical. I called him up, one time I tried to get him to come to Humber College and he said, I said, you want you to do 3 days of a master class. He goes, well, I don't know if I can do that stuff, he said, I'm not that prepared. I said, come on, do it. So he came in. He had it all together. He had computers, he had screens, he had all kinds of, he had it mapped out in a demonstration, more than I ever thought he could put it together.
Pat, I want to thank you very much. Pat Labarbera.
If it wasn't for Buddy Rich and Elton Jones, I never would have met these people. There's 3 factors. Those 2 things, and live long enough so you do have the time and a swath of history where you can kind of plug into these people. There are more there, but
It's endless.
okay. Is that anything? No.
Would you play something?
For me?
No, for the rest of us.
No.
Something by Freddie and the Dreamers.
Freddie and the Dreamers.
Yeah.
Let's see. Go on and blow up.